think I went 5.
Okay, so he looks like a 5', that long nose.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he does. Otherwise, so I'm going to have you, we're going to keep both leashes on him. I'm sorry, that leash on him as well as this leash. He's going to have 2.
Okay.
So go ahead and clip this to
his prong or his flat?
His red one. How's he been?
He's been good. Yeah, we introduced him to a few people in the house, at my girlfriend's house, and that all went well.
Excellent.
So.
How you feeling about everything?
Good. Good, yeah. He's actually coming to boarding hopefully next week.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I think you're trying to get him set up.
Yeah, he, the normal kennel I take him to was full, so.
Oh really? Oh, for spring break?
I guess, I don't know. They're usually don't have any issues, but.
Yeah. Well, we had 18,000 square feet, so.
It's plenty of room.
Because clients are always worried about, oh, if we get filled up, I'm like, worst comes to worst, we set up a wire kennel.
Yeah.
It's 18,000 square feet, like we got space.
Yeah.
So glad to hear he's doing good. And then you don't have to complete the eval, because I think that's what Maria's contacting you about, is that correct?
Yeah, she was talking about like setting him up for like daycare to see how he does.
So the eval isn't for really us or anything, it's for the dog.
Okay.
Okay. So in the past, I used to have clients, if they train with us, they could bypass everything and just board the dog with us.
Yeah.
And we had issues with the dogs because they're just dropped off for days or a week, whatever,
Yeah.
and they start to get stressed out.
Yeah.
And we have the tool to handle it, but then it's like we're not being paid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like we had some pretty big problems come up.
Yeah.
So then I started telling people instead they don't have to do the entire eval at least 1 or 2 days to bring the dog here to be left here.
Yeah.
So that he's picked up later. So then the dog goes, okay, I'm here in this new place I don't know with new people I don't know.
Yeah.
But Dad's coming back, and that's been doing much better now.
Okay.
So he doesn't have to complete it. We say at least a couple of days.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be consecutive. It doesn't have to be during the week. We're open Monday through Sunday.
Okay.
But it's really just to get him acclimated, because even though he's like better here in the times that we're doing the training since in the beginning, remember how freaked out he was? That's completely different because he knows this context of the training session.
Yeah.
Versus just being left alone.
Yeah, he'll definitely be, I mean, he gets stressed even at the normal kennel, but I mean, they said like he'll settle down and all that once he's there. The issue is like other dogs, if he's in close proximity with that he doesn't like, or they'll bark at him, that's when he's had issues with like fence fighting and stuff like that.
Sure.
So
yeah, and then that like we would correct or whatever. It's the dog reactivity aggression is never an issue. It's always the human stuff.
yeah.
Because we have like I think 3 new staff members.
Okay.
That started within the past couple of months too, and I'm not always here. So that then if they're handling the dog, it's.
Yeah, that is one thing. Like he's never done anything at a kennel, and that's all like random people. Like I've never had to introduce him to people at the kennel. I just hand him the leash. He goes sprinting back, and he's never.
Had to shoot.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if it's just he knows like, okay, I got to go to the kennel. I might as well just like get there kind of thing, or what. But yeah, he's never. I take him to the kennel.
Has
At
it
least
always been the same kennel?
No, I've taken him to 3 different ones, but recently it's been the same, and a few of the people he definitely recognizes, but I know for a fact there's been like new people there.
Yeah, for sure.
And they haven't had any issue. They're all like, when I pick him up, they're like, oh, he's the best, we love him, all this stuff. I'm like, so I think a lot of his like the nipping that he was doing was around me.
Yeah, it's protecting or being territorial.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So, but that's not to say obviously you guys still got to be cautious. I know.
Because one dog bite can, like I was out of work with this one
Yeah.
for a while. Like I still had to work
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And even just having that certain, I don't think you knew.
Yeah, I saw you had just gotten out, I think, or maybe
Yeah,
you were
I
in
fucking
the.
sliced my pinky tendon.
Yeah.
So it was stuck like this.
Yeah.
I couldn't bend it.
Well,
So I had a surgery, so now it's stuck like this.
I was
So
gonna
now
say,
we-
are they having you move it
Yeah,
and
it's on
stuff?
my PT,
Okay.
but I can't bend the tip right now.
Yep.
Because of all the scar tissue here.
Yep.
So I got to wear a splint. Probably starting next week, it's going to start trying to push it straight.
Yep.
But they said I'll probably get like 80%. It wasn't a big deal until my wife pointed out that I play guitar, and this is the fretting hand.
Yeah.
So there was so much, I was like, I can't play a ton.
That's honestly probably good for it eventually, like to be able to get that dexterity back.
Yeah, no,
moving it like that, because
when I realized, well, I can't play guitar, like, my heart sank.
yeah.
So I had to,
Yeah, it's a good goal to get back to
Yeah.
too. Sometimes people that don't have anything, like they get surgery and they don't do their rehab,
Yeah,
and then
no, it definitely makes it a lot more serious.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, doing good now. Anything else with Augie? Or everything doing well?
no, yeah, like walks have been really good. I've taken him to the park near me and just worked on place a little bit at the park. Come here. He's done well with that. In my house, he's been fine with place.
Okay.
I've used it when people have come over too. And yeah, well, he's been good.
How many classes are you doing?
Doing 9. So that was the other thing. I was originally planning on maybe saving like 2 until the summer. My
Yep.
girlfriend and I are going to be moving to North Carolina in a couple months.
Okay.
So I'll probably schedule those 2. Probably like April, early May.
Okay, so you have a couple of options. One would be, so after today with the recall, this is a nice point to kind of, where a lot of clients will take breaks, especially if they start 1 year and they go into like the winter's time, they'll usually pause. And I'll tell them like, at least get the recall down because it takes the longest to teach, okay? I had a client in the past that took her, I trained her first dog, she came back to train her second dog. And she told me her first dog took her 6 months before she considered the dog fully off-leash reliable. There's a lot of variables there.
Yeah.
Which is a very realistic, how to say, expectation. So I just use that as a reference for people.
Yeah.
So then, you're doing your thing in the meantime, because you have heel, we have walk with me, don't move, and then come to me. And those 3 things, heel, place, recall, allow you to do almost everything you want to with your dog, okay? So it's a nice place to take a little pause. In the meantime, if you come to realize maybe you only need 1 class or whatever, we have had clients in the past, similar situation, they're gonna move and they don't wanna lose the investment, is they'll convert it to credit, and then they'll either board their dog, and then we just, because it's a service for another service.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe I'll do that since I am boarding him here next week. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll do that
completely up
with
to you.
one of the things just because it would be kind of close to like cram into potentially.
Sure. So just email us.
Okay.
And then what they'll do is they'll take 9, divide what you paid by 9,
Okay.
and then turn that into credit.
Okay.
And then it'll get put towards
Okay.
your boarding or whatever. if you
Okay,
wanna use
cool.
it
Yeah, I
towards
might
the,
do one. I might do one lesson to board then, in addition to the other stuff. But
Okay.
cool.
Anything else?
No, he's pretty good with recall. So, like I said, I know you probably have your own way of doing it, but I've never taken him off leash in like public setting. I probably won't, just for my own personal stress levels. But I just want it more so like in case something were to happen, I
Yeah.
drop the leash or.
Yeah.
That's why I have the double leash thing on there, like in case the prong falls off or
coupler.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So the coupler really mitigates a lot of that stuff, but shit happens.
Yeah.
So, and at the end, I'll go over emergency situations too, and how to kind of proof for all that kind of stuff, which is usually what people don't think about. And then that'll get you the highest level of recall that there is. Okay. So, which hand do you hold the remote in?
My right.
Your right. Okay. So what you're gonna do is you have the remote here. You're gonna have the leash over your right thumb.
The orange one or my?
Correct. So I'm just using this as an example.
Okay.
So you would have remote here, your fingers are open here, right? Leash would be over the left hand.
Okay.
Okay, so we want over, not under.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
So when Augie is coming towards you, what's gonna happen is you're gonna be moving backwards. And with these 3 fingers, you're gonna grab here and move backwards, just like this.
Okay.
Okay, so you're taking up the slap. Don't forget,
Normal level for.
we're gonna go down.
Okay.
Yeah. What is he at right now?
He's normally at like 50 when we're on walks.
We're gonna go to 18.
18.
Whenever we teach anything new, we always dip down low. Okay. So you're gonna be moving backwards, yes, buddy. And you're gonna be taking up that extra slack by moving like this. What we don't wanna do is this, which is what a lot of people do. I had one lady, she wrapped her leg by accident and then knocked herself backwards, okay? When we do it this way, we keep it nice and clean, okay? Don't worry about taking up all the slack. You're just trying to shorten the leash to limit how much range of motion he has.
Okay.
So if Augie has a 30-foot line, which is what I recommend, 30 feet is very realistic. Anything more tends to be too much. Anything less tends to be too short.
Yeah, I think I have a 25.
So if you take your 25 and you clip it to this 6-footer here, that'll give you the nice 30-foot.
Okay.
So then, in case if Augie is running towards you, let's say he gets distracted, he bypasses you, right? By shortening the leash, you're limiting how much range he has. So even if I take up 15 feet of slack, that just leaves him with 15 feet of slack as opposed to the full 30 feet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So people are usually concerned about gathering it all, and I say don't worry about that. You're really just trying to shorten it to mitigate how much space the dog has, because you'll see them use every option available to them, which makes it more difficult even for the handler to correct. Okay. Oh, the next thing is once you have reeled in enough slack, you're gonna with the overhand, you're gonna go over the hand, over the finger, close hand. Okay. Over the hand, over the finger, close hand for that lock. Okay. So when Augie's coming towards you, you reel it in, you lock it. Let's say he continues running. I'm not worried about that ripping through my hand because it's going to catch itself. Okay. If you're holding the leash like this, I've had clients try this where they hold, hoping that they can contain the dog. Nobody's won. Okay. And they always walk away with a nice little burn, rope burn there.
Yep.
Okay. So if you're in that situation, I would let this go, remove my remote, and clasp here. This is your fail-safe. Okay, it also acts as a lock, so he's not going to rip that through your hand. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So when we do this, we do all this stuff to make sure that's as secure as possible, because in 12 to 14 years of training dogs, I've seen all sorts of shit happen. But doing either or of these will make sure that you have security. Okay? Question on any of that stuff? Nope. So I'm going to hand this to you. I'm going to take Augie here, and then you're going to get your leash set up.
So right hand here.
And I'll have you go to that great spot right there.
Okay.
And what you're going to do here is you're going to prematurely reel in some slack here.
Okay.
A little bit more, about right there, okay? So all we're going to do is for this first batch, we're going to do about 5 reps here. We're not going to use the cum cube, okay? We're going to tap on the collar first, because we want to make sure that the Augie is responding to the collar. By the end of class, we will layer in the work.
Okay.
So what we're going to do here is you're going to start tapping as I say tap. By the 3rd tap, if Augie isn't responding, we may bump the collar.
Okay.
Gradually until we find the number that he feels, and then once we see him start moving towards you, you would stop tapping, move backwards, and then reel in the leash like I showed you.
Okay.
Okay? Questions?
Nope.
All right, yeah, we're at 18, correct?
18, yep.
I'm going to tap. Now backwards, and then reel it in. Hold right there. Wait a moment. Brace. Brace.
Good boy. Good boy.
You say break, and I'll take the
Okay.
short leash.
Oh, my God.
Good. Repeat that 4 more times.
Okay.
Wait a moment, and yeah, back, reel it. Right there, pause, raise.
Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
Let's go down to 12. And then break.
Okay.
Yeah, boy.
It's hard to coordinate all
This
this.
is the most coordination I've ever done.
I feel like I'm going to be tired after this, not just him.
Wait a moment, and yep. Yep, now backwards. Good, reel it in. Hold right there. Raise.
Good boy. Good boy.
Good, 2 more.
Good boy. Okay. Should I try to hold some of the slack like in my hand as I'm going?
Let it drop.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll explain why afterwards. So he's already starting to tie two together, which is normal. Yep. 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 A little bit of a pull. Yep. There it is. Good. Reel it in. Good. Hold right there. Nice.
Good boy. Good boy, Augie. Yes, good boy.
Good. One more.
Okay.
Break. Good boy. See how he's less willing to come towards me now?
Yeah.
It's all normal. Good boy. Good moment. Yep. 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 Good. Backwards. Good. Hold right there. Right.
Good boy. Good boy.
So what we're going to do now, same exercise,
Okay.
but instead of reeling in the slack, you're going to have it positioned over your hand like you've been doing, but you're going to leave it on the ground. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So earlier you really did elevate it a little bit.
Yep.
So in case you need to pull, it was ready to go, but now you're going to leave it actually on the ground but still positioned in your hand.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Good boy. Good.
Still back up when.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's permanent to the recall.
Okay.
So give slack here a little bit more. There you go, like that, perfect. And you'll still reel it in. We're just not keeping it elevated. Okay. And yep. Good. Backwards. Reel it. Good. Hold right there. Wait a moment. Raise.
Good boy. Good boy. Is it okay if he like gets up after?
So go to tap here.
Okay.
And then praise again.
Good boy.
Good. So yeah, so he should maintain the sitting position
Okay.
even if you're praising him.
Okay. Good boy.
Break.
Okay.
Okay.
You'll be going back there soon enough. Don't worry.
Wait a moment. And yep. Yep. Good. Backwards. Good. Hold right there. Wait a moment. Great.
Good boy. Good boy, Augie. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah, good boy. Good boy.
Okay. Break.
Okay.
Was that two?
Yeah, with the slack.
This way, buddy. Good boy. I know. A couple more. Yeah, boy. Good job. Good. And yep. Good. Backwards. Hold right there. Check, check. Check.
Good boy.
Check, check. Good. Two more.
Good
Break.
boy. Okay.
Good. Two more. And then we'll give him a break. I know. Two more. Yep. Right. Yep. Yeah. Now backwards. Good. Hold right there. Praise.
Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
Break.
Okay.
One more. Good. Okay. Hold right there. Good. Praise.
Good boy, Augie. Good boy.
Just going to bring him forward a little bit.
Good boy. Come.
I'm going to pause right there. Very good. Okay. And you can relax and drop the orange leash if you want. You know, we're going to let him rest here. Okay. So, what did you see?
I mean, he came. I think there was only maybe once or twice where he was a little hesitant, but for the most part, he like came pretty much right away. Mm-hmm. And then, I think you mentioned earlier, like he wasn't as interested in going over there because he knew he would probably have to come back. Correct. So
yeah, we're setting him up to be tapped, right? So all that stuff is normal. The 2 times that he was confused, one of them was when I was walking away, he went to pull back towards you, and I pulled him on the prop. So that creates a correction, right? Mm-hmm. So he's thinking, all right, I'm coming with you. I know what's going to happen, so I want to go back to Dad. But then I got corrected for making the decision to go back to Dad. And I pulled him away. And then when you tapped him, he actually didn't move. I don't know if you noticed. It took I think 3 to 4 taps mm-hmm. before he finally moved forward. Mm-hmm. And it was, I think, just that one that took that many because of that correction. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it created a little bit of confusion there. The other one was you had tapped him and he actually walked over to me. Did you see that one? Mm-hmm. And then when you tapped him the second time, he actually left me and then went to you, which is what we're looking for, right? So all that stuff is pretty normal. But this is why we work through these exercises, because we want to clarify for the dog what this means within this particular context. So dogs, I don't know if I mentioned this before, see things in pictures. Mm-hmm. The way they interpret the collar is going to change depending what life looks like at the moment. So if you're walking with Augie, right, if I'm Augie and this is you, when you're in the world walking, when you come to a stop, what is he supposed to do?
Sit next to me.
Right? He's supposed to auto-sit. So the world looks very, a very certain way. So if he's standing, the world looks a certain way. So when you tap him, he sees you here, he goes, oh, the world should look like this. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. With the place, in the home, when you tap him, even probably without words, his assumption would most likely be go to the dog bed, because I highly doubt that you healed him within the home. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you healed him within the home, then I can see the dog getting confused between the two, and then we'd have to teach him how to differentiate, but that's what he's most likely going to assume. Same thing here. We're at a distance, right? We're 30 feet apart. So then when you're at the park and you tap him, he's like, oh, okay, Dad's 30 feet that way, so this is going to mean to return to him. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So even without the words, the dog will learn the context and interpret what the collar means according to what life looks like, okay? So here, the reason why we don't start with the word is, especially if Augie's already got the previous training, the foundational stuff, he's got a frame of reference already, is if you called him, even if you tapped him, I don't know what made him do it. Mm-hmm. Was it the cue or was it the remote, right? And we obviously want to make sure that he knows how to do it with the remote. I've had people in the past just assume, oh, if my dog already knows recall, if I call them and they don't do it, I just shock them. And I go, no, you will most likely send your dog running the opposite way. I've had people jump classes sometimes, and then they come back like, I made my dog run away. I'm like, yeah, because we've not covered it this way. A dog's first instinct typically is to move away from threat or danger or discomfort, right? Mm-hmm. So even though they have heel on the collar, when it's in a completely new context, dogs are more likely to run off, okay? So earlier when you said I walk them at 50, and I said we're gonna dip it down to 18, was because even though 50 is his working level in the real world, right? You've now established that. If we come in at 50 now for something that he's technically learning from, or relearning, right? Have you ever tried to figure out something or fix something while you were under stress? Mm-hmm. How'd it go for you?
Yeah, you forget certain things.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's happened to me. The videos that I edit, sometimes shit happens on the computer. I know how to use a computer, but there's some stuff that's just out of my realm of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I got a client in 30 minutes. I got to get this shit done because I only have today to do it. I start to get pissed off, and I really can't think. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Same thing for the dog. So if I'm coming at 50 for something he does not know how to do, I'm putting him under a lot of stress to figure it out. like this, right? So we go down way low. We went to 50 to 18, and from 18 I said, we're going to 12, right? We went even lower than that because I felt 18 was still a little too much, because I'm also trying to avoid creating the problem of disincentivizing Augie from leaving you, right? So we already saw a little bit with me pulling him away, okay? So the way that we're practicing this is not realistic. This is not how you would practice in real life. This is just, as you noted, to get these mechanics down. It's a lot of stuff to think about, right? And having the second handler allows us to force this back to back to back to back, even if the dog is starting to get disincentivized of walking away, right? But realistically speaking, you would be out in the real world, have Augie on the long leash, and let Augie be a dog, looking for those opportunities to practice that recall, okay? I'm all about realistic application. Does he have prey drive?
Yeah.
Squirrels, rabbits, birds?
He's getting better with that even, but yeah, he has, like when I first got him, I was looking the other way and he took off after a rabbit, and I did drop the leash. This was maybe like a month into me having him, and I yelled at him, and he must have heard the fear of God in my voice, because he immediately stopped and came walking back over to me. So I was like, okay. But yeah, he's chased some rabbits in my backyard.
Okay.
He'll normally wait, like if he sees them, I normally open the door because we share a backyard. So I'll open the door, make sure there's nobody out there while he's sitting before we go out. And I try to get the rabbits out, but sometimes they don't want to move. So I'll just release him and then he'll take off after them. I don't know if that's good for him or not, but.
So dogs are predators.
Yeah.
Right? I have no problem with dogs chasing squirrels, rabbits, birds, and all that stuff. Sometimes they even catch them, you know. But they're predators, they're hunters. I just care that I can get control, right? So if he's in a heel, I don't care that he looks at a squirrel. I don't care that he looks at a rabbit, right? But I don't want him going into that zone. Does that make sense? Yeah. So he can enjoy the world. He just can't get into that zone. With recall, it gives you gives you and Augie more freedom, and allows him to have more of these kind of pleasures in the dog's life of chasing things, because, you know, like, I'll bring you back and bring you back. Okay, so like my dogs have like my Chihuahua, my Pit have very high prey drive. They chase squirrels, but when I call them, they come back to me, right? So dogs with prey drive make things a lot easier to practice and rehearse, because we have a distraction in the environment, but also a reward. Does that make sense? So here, realistically speaking, sorry, she's old.
That's okay.
Rosina. She used to just run back there, and now all of a sudden she's been a little resistant. She also has dementia, I'm pretty sure now. That's the OG, the original Canine Perspective pack member there. Yeah, so I go to the park, I have my long leash. Let's say, for example, where that door is, that's a tree with squirrels. I have my dog on the heel, they're holding, break, go, right? They're running, they're jumping, they're barking, having a good old time. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, you decide, and then Augie come, tap, tap, back, pull, okay? He runs to you, good boy, praise, praise, praise. Wait a second, because a lot of times the temptation is there that they'll prematurely break, and I'll remote them and move back again without calling them, because that's a correction. Don't leave my side until I release you. He comes back, praise, and I hold, break. And then he can go back to the squirrels again.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Is that number still?
It's going to go up.
Okay.
So the reason why we dipped it down lower, one, of course, was just that he's learning something new. Keeping it lower so that when you do have the time to go to the park to practice, we've not put so much, pressure on him that it's going to dissuade him. So I'm trying to avoid a future problem for you, okay? But in that context, you're going to go up accordingly, but you would start low. Okay. So let's say Augie's chasing squirrels, you call him and you're tapping at 12. He's just bypassing it. 15, 18, 21, just take your time. There's no rush, okay? And then eventually maybe you hit 30, and at 30, you see him start to back off, and he turns, he moves towards you, you move back, you reel in the leash, good boy, right? Because you don't want to assume it's going to be 50, because if you come in too hot, the next time you try to practice with him, he's going to be like, I'm not doing anything. Yeah. So now you've just dissuaded the behavior, and unfortunately, we can't practice recall unless the dog is away from us. Okay, so recall is one of the longest commands to teach. I had a client, I trained her first dog, she came back and I trained her second dog. And she told me her first dog took her 6 months before she considered her to be off-leash reliable, okay? And I use that now as a frame of reference for my clients. It's a very realistic expectation just because with recall, it requires the dog being away from you. Heel is super easy because we want the dog next to us and we walk our dog multiple times a day. Recall, however, you gotta go to the park, hope it's a nice day, hope that there's squirrels or distractions, hope that there's space for you to practice, right? Hope that he leaves your side. Like there's all these things that factor in order to be able to practice that recall. Does that make sense? So I've had it happen to clients where they're practicing, and even with being low on the collar, they'll go and the dog won't leave their side because they know what they're going to do. So then the purpose of the park visits becomes, I need to just let my dog be a dog and not do any training so that they can come back to that comfort again.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Questions on that? So the setup of like the person holding Augie and everything, obviously that's not realistic. No one's going to be holding Augie for you. He's going to be off doing his thing. We just do this solely for the repetitions, okay? If you're at the park and let's say you're out there with like, with your girlfriend, correct? And let's say there's nothing to work with and you're like, well, we drove all the way here. I don't want to waste this day. You could do this, okay? One thing that you could do to make it a little bit more realistic is have her walk with Augie. So he's moving. Usually when people issue the recall, the dog is running away, chasing something, or running towards something they shouldn't, like the street. It's almost always a moving away behavior. So then I just have her walk or run with him to kind of distract them, and then do a couple of recalls there so that it's not a wasted visit. But it's still not as realistic as he's full-blown chasing squirrels, okay? Now, when it comes to prey drive, once you kind of establish what the number is, there's 3 points I like to practice. One is mid-pursuit. So break, he's halfway there, 3/4 of the way there. Then there's as he just gets to the squirrels. And then there's as he's been chasing them for a while, okay? You want to practice in each of those contexts randomly. I've had a couple clients do like the pursuit first, and then what the dog learns is whenever they go to chase a squirrel, they're going to get called, so they'll just automatically turn away, expecting the recall to happen. So when you change it up, you're teaching them this could happen at any point, okay? When it comes to the dog chasing the squirrels, like in the activity itself, you could let him have 20 minutes of pure chase, and then you call him. Because the longer he's doing that, the more disengaged he gets from you. So what you're teaching him is, even if 20 minutes go by, I might give you a command and you're expected to fulfill it. So I usually explain it to my clients as a kid playing video games. You come in, you tell them to clean the room, you come back 15 minutes later and you tell them, they're like, you didn't clean your room. They're like, I didn't hear you, right? Because they're so in tune to the video game. Same thing for the dog. He's so in that prey drive, he's not hearing that, okay? But eventually, you'll start to see that once you call him, he'll just 180 from them and come straight back to you, okay? Questions on any of that? Your training is only as good as the context that you practice in. So if you always practice at the same park, he'll be great at that park, and then one day you go to a different park, he's gonna suck, okay? So always assume that if you go into a new environment with Augie, you're gonna have to take a step back in your training, okay? So I recommend, keeping a long leash in your trunk or whatever. You do a few reps to get him warmed up, and then he's like, okay, everything that we did at, Jesse's facility now applies to this park. You go to a different park. Now everything that applies to the park in Jesse's facility now applies to this park. Just like slowly kind of transferring things. I usually give clients a baseline number of 20 different environments of practicing your training in order for a dog to start to generalize, okay? Funny thing about dogs is like sit at the park, sit at PetSmart, sit in the facility, sit at home are all different things, okay? But when it comes to behavioral stuff, for example, like if an off-leash dog attacks a dog, the next day almost always they're going to be dog aggressive. And they just generalize that all dogs are now a threat. But when it comes to obedience, they don't, okay? So question on any of that. The reason for the moving back, super important. I do this to this day with my guys, is it's the body language for return to me, right? So one would be, if you're in an environment, I know you mentioned earlier that you probably wouldn't let him off leash, right? I've had a number of people tell me this, and I've also had a number of those people actually end up being fully off leash. Usually it's a distrust thing, right? Either they don't trust the dog in returning, or they don't trust themselves in regaining control of the situation if like the dog becomes reactive or whatever, right? But with the training, your confidence goes up. And then you go, oh shit, like Augie's really good now. And like I've not seen him be reactive in all these different contexts. And the times that, where he is reactive, I can stop, I know how to stop it like that or whatever, is you start to be able to do more things with them. There's nothing to say that you have to, but it happens a lot where clients are like, wow, I never thought I'd get this far. Okay, because it all comes down to control, competence. Okay? So let's say, that was my train of thought before that.
There's the different like places you were talking about.
Oh yeah, the different places. I lost my train of thought there. The generalizing, he's fully off leash. Oh, the moving backwards. So if you're in an environment, let's say he got to the point where like, wow, Augie's great. He's off doing his doggy thing. Maybe there's stuff in the environment that's loud and he can't hear you, right? So he's gonna feel the collar, that's gonna tell him, I need to do something. He's gonna turn around, he can't hear you, but he does see this, right? So this becomes his body language cue of, hey buddy, I need you to return to me.
Yeah. When I do give him a verbal command, should it be like at the same time as this, or?
No, it's always command, then the tap.
Okay.
Okay.
And should I always tap, or if I ask him to come and he comes, like right away, should I not tap?
So at this stage, you will always tap.
Okay.
And eventually it becomes, if he responds like this, you don't tap.
Okay.
So we only do it with this command.
Okay.
So with heel, sit, down, stay, place. If the dog responds within a quarter to half a second, we can avoid the collar.
Yeah.
So they learn that game. With the recall, however, we have training and proofing. Training is what we just did right now. We taught Augie, when you feel this in this context, now it means to come to me, right? Proofing is no matter the context, no matter the environment, no matter his emotional state, whether he's scared, nervous, anxious, whatever, no matter what that is set to, no matter when it happens, this is what you're supposed to do, okay? So people tend to think of the e-collar when the dog screws up or when the dog is disobedient, right? And I go, but what happens when you screw up, okay? So now you have miscommunication, now you have confusion, right? Is if I'm Augie, for example, and you call him, right? And he comes to you, and then you tap him, what do you think might happen?
I mean, he might associate coming back to me with the tap, so he might be less motivated to come back.
Or what else?
Or
What
he might go the opposite
Yes.
way.
He'll do this, right? We don't want that. We never want the tool that's meant to bring our dog to us to send the dog away from us. This is super common, okay? So if every time you call Augie, you always tap him, you are more likely to screw up. We're forcing the problem, okay? For my clients that like really want off-leash stuff, they get surprised when the dog starts to like make a lot of mistakes, and they go, right, because we went from a short leash with a little range of motion, a little margin for error, to a 30-foot leash. There's a greater margin for error there. The dog's going to make mistakes, but that's why we use these tools, so we can fix those things. So by the time we're fully off leash, I'm not worried about is my dog going to screw up or get confused, right? So if every time you call Augie, you're going to find it where you forget the tap. He's halfway to you, and then you go, oh shit, Jesse said the tap him, right? So even though it's halfway, because people usually go like, oh, it's too late now. I go, no, that's the perfect time. Because if he's already halfway to you, and then you tap him, and he's like, oh, maybe this is incorrect. And then it sends him off the opposite way. So then we would tap him some more. We would not call him. You would pull on the leash to redirect him, move backwards to bring him back to you. Does that make sense? So you're creating the problem to fix the problem so that in the future, if he is ever fully off leash, you're not worried about if he gets confused, okay? Because I've had it with clients that they jump ahead too soon with the collar, and they're remoting the dog, and they're sending the dog away from them no matter what they do. I go, right, because you've not, one, set a foundation, but then two, you confuse the dog, but because you don't have a leash, you have no means of giving the dog feedback to tell him, no, do this instead, right? So I like to force the problem so I can fix them, so that if I'm fully off leash, I'm not too concerned about what happens if I screw up, right? What happens if you put that remote in your pocket and it accidentally jacks up the collar to like 75 or 90, and then you tap the dog at a 90, right? That also sometimes sends the dog running away because there's too much pressure. Does that make sense? So we only do it with this particular command because it's the command that could potentially lead to your dog running away. And obviously we don't want that, okay? So there's gonna be stages to all this stuff. Right now you would be in what I call the long leash stage. The long leash is in your hand, or at least it's gonna be in your hand and you're gonna call him. So if you want to give them, let's say you're in a like empty fenced-in park or whatever, you have the long leash on still, even though it's enclosed. He's chasing squirrels. You can let it drop, but then when you're ready to call him, just make sure it's in your hand. In case he gets too confused, you can still guide him.
Okay.
Once you've done enough reps of that and you feel very confident, like, oh, he's doing pretty good, I don't need to use the leash to guide him anymore, we go to long leash dragging, okay? I will be nearby the leash. In case he's confused, I can step on it or pick it up if needed, but I try not to because we're trying to wean away from that to get him to come to us.
Okay.
Once we've done that, and we're like, okay, he's great with that now, I never touch the leash anymore, then we move 2 leashes off, enclosed area, like a yard, a tennis court, you know, a dog park that could be empty or whatever, to no leash, unenclosed area. Those are the stages, okay? And again, this is why it takes so long, because you're trying to work through all these things, making sure that he's good to go by the time you're fully off leash in an environment. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Question on any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So with the recall, you're moving back, draw him to you. I don't care where the dog lands, right, left, front, back, or between your legs. I just care that he's within your immediate space, within an arm's length reach. Because typically when we recall our dog, it's because we want to leash him up to leave, right? Mm-hmm. So if Augie lands, for example, there, I would have to walk to him to leash him up. I don't want that. So what I would do here is turn to face Augie, tap, I don't say anything, move backwards, make him complete the rest of the way. Okay. Very common for people when the dog is not responding or getting confused, our instinct typically is to move towards them. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do that. You always move away from him. Okay. That long leash is going to be your safety net to be able to redirect them. The moving towards, one, you're doing part of the work. So in this case, I've had clients do this where they'll go to the dog and praise him like this, mm-hmm. and the dog will either take off as a game, or they'll start to slow down like they're going to stop and do a short stop, and then they take off on the owner again, like a check and go, if you will. Okay. Whenever we make dogs come to us 100% of the way, you're eliminating a lot of that nonsense. Okay. I don't care if he lays down or he sits. I do care that he is in a stationary position. Dogs that return and are left standing are more likely or inclined to drift and explore. When you have them sit and or lay down automatically, much less inclined. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Question on that. Mm-hmm. So recall would be come to me and then stay with me. So if I call Augie from Swirls and then he's sitting at my side, and then he decides to lay down. Like, I don't care about that. If you want it to be more strict, you can correct that to the sitting position. With heel, it has to be a sit. With recall, I'm a little bit lenient on that. But until I say break, his job is to stay here. So even if it's 10 minutes, he's just here. Now, if he moves and maybe sits over here, I personally don't have a problem with it because he's still within that immediate range. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Questions on that? Mm-hmm. So now what we're going to do is we're going to layer in the come cue. Everything's going to stay the same, except you're going to issue the cue first. And even if Augie begins running towards you, you're still going to tap on the collar once and then move back.
Okay. Still at 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, bud. Just a few more. Boy. You coming through? Or are you going there?
Should I call his name first too, or?
So with the recall, you can do come, Augie, or Augie come. Okay. So for the command of come, a lot of times people will do some kind of variation of. That's perfectly fine. If you use the name with recall, I recommend not using his name with other commands. Yeah. So
I normally say Augie come, and then that's what I've been doing. I try not to just use his name because, I mean, in the past I was told, like, if you just use his name, he doesn't know what that means. You're not, telling him anything. You're just yelling at him, basically. So
yeah. It's because dogs tend to hear the first word.
Yeah.
So if you do Augie sit, Augie down, Augie heel, Augie come, the dog starts to gamble what's going to come next.
Yeah.
So then that's the only thing I'll dissuade people from. But you can do come, Augie, Augie come, or any kind of interchanging variation of. Okay. And he'll learn that they're all the same thing. Okay. When you're ready.
Augie come.
And then back. Hold right there. Praise.
Good boy. Good boy.
I think you tapped in the middle of the phrase.
Yeah, probably.
So it'd be Augie come, then tap.
Okay.
Okay? Tap, 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 step on your leash. Tap, 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 tap. Hold right there. Wait a second. Tap, 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 tap. Go ahead and bump. Let's go to 16. Tap. Wait a sec. Better. Okay, so that was a correction. Okay, so he got distracted. He's like, oh, open door, right? So then here to limit him, you can step on the leash. So he's thinking he can attempt it, but now you're correcting. And what you're teaching him is if you prematurely leave my side after a recall before the break, this correction is automatic.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
And then he was kind of ignoring there, so then we bumped to the 16 because he had then came to me, which was incorrect. 16 brought him back, and he's within that space of arm's length reach.
Okay.
Break. 4 more.
So command first and then tap. Okay.
So Augie come, tap.
Okay. Augie come.
Tap. Now back and reel it in. Hold right there. Praise.
Good boy. Good boy.
3 more. Break.
Okay.
Come on, bud. This way. Good boy.
It's still at 16. Should I have turned it
16
down?
is good for now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Augie, come.
Tap. Back. 1, 2. Hold right there. Praise.
Good boy. Good boy.
Good. 2 more. Break, break, break.
Okay.
Come on, bud.
Is it okay to use treats in this case? Like if
You
he
can.
comes to me and then...
You can just be, sometimes the dogs, once they learn that food is involved, will then be inclined to stick to you. So if that becomes a problem, then I would dissuade it. But we're using the food as a payment, not as a lure, right? So if I have a treat pouch on me, I call the dog remote, everything's the same. Once they complete it, good, then the food would happen.
Okay.
So instead of the praise, it would be the food.
Okay.
What I don't want is the food out and then issuing the recall because now the dog has a lure. So it's more, I tell you to do it and then I pay you for it. Okay?
Yep.
Other questions? All right. Go ahead.
Augie, come.
Tap. Now back, reel it in. Hold right there. Raise.
Good boy. Good boy.
Last one. Break, break.
Okay.
Last one, buddy.
He wants to go back there. Soon enough.
Mr. Inquisitive.
Sure you will be exploring.
Wait a moment. So you see he's anticipating it here. Wait a moment. Wait a moment.
Augie, come.
Tap. Back, reel it in.
Good boy. Good boy.
So what I'm gonna have you do here is position yourself like you're in the heel position. You don't have to be facing the same way, so then stand to this side. Okay, come around on this other side. Yeah, like that. It's okay that he's facing the opposite way. There you go.
Yeah, he... Okay, I was going to say, yeah.
Facing this way. Because you heel on the left, correct?
Yeah.
You're gonna drop the leash and hold the handle in the right hand as you have it. Yep, like that. Going to come on through, Judah. Good. You can go through. You're going to drop the left hand and then move it so that the leash is behind you.
Like,
yes.
all the
like
way
that.
behind me?
Very good. Okay. I'm gonna have you say heel, and you're gonna move forward like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Heel.
Now slow, keep forward, and cross over. Yep, keep forward. Good. Turn, tap. Yep, good. Good, you're gonna cross over, and I'm gonna have you kind of move towards that black door right there.
On the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, he's probably gonna try to skip ahead here. Hold right there, Corey. Keep forward. Tap, tap. Good. Now pivot. Good. Forward. Tap. Good. You can go now, Corey. Excellent. Keep forward. You're going to go into another pivot here. Yep. Now forward. Tap, 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 tap. Keep forward. Now crossover. Good. Crossover again. Now slow walk. Sorry. Come towards me.
Oh.
Tap, tap, tap. Now slow. And stop. Tap. We'll ignore this for now. He should be sitting.
Yeah.
So you're like 70%. Okay. If you wanted to do off-leash heel, this is what we do. So once I start the recall stuff, I usually do a little sneak peek for the owner. Most of the time, the owner's doing good with reinforcing everything. It's very easy to start transitioning towards that.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of it in my backyard, but not, I haven't done it with a collar. I don't know if that's harming him or not, but just more for like keeping him engaged, finding stuff to do in the backyard.
Busy work. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So here, if you're looking for an actual like off-leash heel, you want to use your remote.
Yeah.
Because again, we're creating a greater margin for error. So to force a problem, I said walk towards the back door, because since he's been inquisitive about it, I think he's probably going to go, right? And then instead I had to do a pivot turn there. He kind of stalled for a bit. The short leash was actually bothering him the most, right? It's okay. I will use it to my advantage if I need to, because it doesn't matter what's going on or how the dog feels. Like, you know, if he's like, I don't like the short leash, I go, well, it doesn't matter. You still have to be here, right? It's not because I'm a jerk, but it's because that's how I build reliable obedience. If I give the dog little gray areas of like, oh, like that's bothering you now, and I allow that gap, I have unreliable obedience. Does that make sense? So here, there was a point where you were tapping and he had drifted off of you, right? Because now he's got a greater margin for error. So I would continue moving, tapping, and then gradually increase as needed, and you might see it push him away at first. Okay, so it's completely normal. Whereas pushing him away, our instinct typically is to lower, stop, reset the situation. We don't do that because life doesn't let you do that. Life's going to continue going, right? Except there won't be a leash. So instead, because I'm in my leash training phase, I continue to bump it, I continue moving, and especially at the park where I got greater space, at first you might see him trying to move away. Even if he hits the end of the leash, it's still capped, and eventually he's like, this isn't working, he runs to you. I continue walking. Once he's here, good boy, good boy, good boy, right? Now he's learned, okay, when I feel this, I don't want to move away from Dad, I want to move towards him, right? And then you can break up your recall exercises, where if I go to the park, I do a recall or two, and then I go, I'm going to walk all the way over to the other side of the park. I can pop him in a long leash heel. We walk to the other side of the park, come, we'll stop, break, let him have some more dog time, right? It's not just recall, recall, recall. I can add in little intermittent, like come to my side and walk with me. Does that make sense? So it's a little sneak peek there. So like the next time I see you, we'd most likely already be at Oz Park again. Is pending everything's going good, what I can do is help you progress what you know to a more advanced level. Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I think also just, you know, doing maybe a little bit of like a tune-up for us just walking on the leash, because I know there are moments that it's not perfect, which I know he's a dog. He's not going to be perfect 100% of the time, but maybe there are some things that I feel like I have a tendency to slow, like you were saying, like slow down. Like if he's getting too far ahead of me and I tap him, and I will typically like slow down in that moment instead of just like keep walking at my normal pace. So I've been trying to do better with that and just kind of keep walking, and then he'll just kind of come to my side instead of like I'm slowing down and then he comes back.
So the reason why you have that is you're missing a little detail there. Do you remember what it is?
I mean, I guess maybe not ever letting him get in front. Like as soon as he goes, like being more strict with that.
I think in the beginning you may have not done a whole lot of it because Augie already had his baseline training from before, correct? Right? Is the turn away. So in the context, let's say you're walking with Augie and your girlfriend, or like, let's say there's a lot of people behind you, you can't turn away. This approach is a Band-Aid fix because you're gonna get what you're seeing, which is he'll slow down, but then 10, 15 minutes later, he picks up again.
Yeah.
Right, because he's got 4 legs, he walks, he's gonna have a faster walking
Yeah,
cadence,
he just
right?
trots.
So here, that's a Band-Aid fix.
Okay.
And typically, in order for a dog to tie that together, you end up being much higher than usual because you have to compensate for the lack of information.
Okay.
Because typically, the dog passes, it would be turn and then tap on the collar, right? So the dog's getting 2 points of information. The dog's going, I'm going the wrong way, right? Because now you're going that way, but also I have this thing that I don't like turning on. But the moment I walk with you or catch up to you, all that stuff goes away.
Okay. So I should be doing that maybe more.
Yes, but
frequently.
then if
Okay.
you're still having to do that, what does that tell me?
Probably need to turn it up.
Correct. That's the next point.
Okay.
Once you hit the right number, especially at this point in your training, because we're like months into it, right? Is you're gonna go, damn, like ever since I hit 70, like he is perfect on the walk. I no longer have to do the turnarounds, and I no longer have to tap him just to bring him back or whatever, because you found the number that he wants to avoid.
Okay.
Okay. So people tend to go by, this is so much better than what it was before.
Yeah.
Right? And that's complacency, right? I don't ever want to have to correct this dog. Does that make sense? And it's not to say that you never will, but when you go when that's your goal of, I want him to be so good that I just don't have to correct him anymore, now your corrections become even more infrequent, right? Like having a quiet kennel here, we have 50, 60 dogs. In the beginning, it was a lot of fucking work. Correcting all the dogs, teaching them the structure and all that stuff, but then we just stuck to it. And now you get the occasional bark, get the occasional whine. It happens, right? But it's not 50 dogs doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So same thing here. I would say for sure, I bet you today, if you went home and you did an hour-long walk, whatever, and every time he got a line, you corrected him and then you bumped it 5 levels, you're gonna hit the number right away. Let's say it's 80. In the next walk that you go on, you start at 80 and you just tap him, you're probably gonna have that correction on that walk. Because he already knows what to do.
Yeah.
It's just, he's maybe too excited about the environment, too excited for the walk, the beautiful weather, right? Is you're having to override that.
Yeah.
And tell him like, I know it's a nice day, buddy.
Because he knows not to go like to the end of the leash, but he'll be like almost like midsection here. So his head and shoulders are in
His
front.
right shoulder should be parallel to your left leg. So if you're walking with someone, it's typically shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
Right? That's your reference point. So even if that shoulder leaves you an inch, that's where that turn and tap would happen. And sometimes clients will note that the dog will turn immediately, like they'll press, and the moment they turn, the dog just does it. So then we flip it, where we correct the dog first, and then we turn. So now there's no way to avoid, because the owner's like, well, just the dog turns right away, so when do I tap him? And I go, then you flip it. And now the dog goes, shit, there's no longer that little microsecond for me to play with.
Yeah.
And the number is much higher, and then everything stops.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah, for sure. I would say if you just took a couple of walks and you just kept bumping it, you're going to hit a number, and he's going to be very close to the perfect.
Okay.
This here, you would, be lower, work your way up
Yeah.
and stuff, because it's a different thing. But at least for the short leash stuff, for sure.
Okay.
He's capable of that.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? So if anything comes up in the meantime,
Okay.
you can email me.
Yep, I'll be here. I think I'm waiting for his, he had one last vaccine that I did on Friday, and then his fecal sample results are coming.
Okay.
So once I get that, I think everything's like pretty much set up. I just have to pay and schedule it. But yeah, he'll probably be here Monday and Tuesday
Okay.
for daycare.
Then I'll
and
probably
then-
see him because I'm usually here in the mornings on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Yep.
Yeah, and then just email about what you want to do with the remaining 2 classes. If you
Okay.
want to convert one to the credit, and then I think that makes sense to do that, and then use your last one on any, like you said, we could
Yeah.
go for a stroll around the park,
Yeah.
and then probably even be able to cover some of this stuff too,
Okay.
and then go from there.
Okay.
Okay,
Cool.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, just get you your long line here.